Grateful, thank you. The other point I want to raise is accuracy. We've talked a lot about data, but data is only useful if it's accurate. And we will all have heard this story of baby Lilah, a beautiful baby girl born in Sutton-in-Ashfield, who was registered as male by accident. And side notes are not very easy with digital data, so how do we ensure that data is accurate? There are 3 clauses in the bill which may help us with this. 45(6) says that information must be accurate. 28(3) and 4 suggest the Secretary of State must check listed organisations to a certain data reliability. And 140 requires the Secretary of State to produce a data dictionary. So we all ensure we know what the definitions of all the data points are, and we all know what they mean. The Secretary of State spoke of data in relation to the NHS and where it affords huge opportunity. And I should at this point refer members to my register of interest, as I'm a consultant paediatrician. Others have talked about the huge opportunities that AI and data use and research can present to the NHS, but there is also a risk here. And I ask the Honourable Gentleman how he intends to define sex. The Labour Cabinet and the Prime Minister have repeatedly struggled to define what is a woman in the past. And leaving to secondary legislation in small committee is not sufficient scrutiny when this is so important. Earlier in the debate, the Secretary of State referred to the amount of powers in this bill given to the Secretary of State under secondary legislation and why things are not included in the bill, the face of the bill themselves. And this is one thing which I think should be given more scrutiny than an SI committee. The reason it's important to protect women. It's important to protect women's sport, women's privacy, and women's single-sex spaces. It's important to protect care, intimate care. Many people, particularly with domiciliary care, want to receive intimate care by somebody of the same sex. How will they know if the data is not available? It's also important to protect those with a trans identity. For example, many blood reference ranges are different for males and females. For example, haemoglobin varies from laboratory to laboratory, but is roughly 13 to 18 in males and 11.5 to 16.5 in females. If data is not properly complete or properly accurate, then some individuals may receive unnecessary investigation. Data for screening and other health messages are important. We do not want men male people called for cervical screening, or we don't want men not to receive data for prostate information as well. Of course I will, yeah.
She's making some excellent points there regarding sex and gender and the collection of data, which she knows I share her views. I think it's incumbent on the Minister and the Secretary of State to ensure that when they are collecting data, that it is done according to sex. So I appreciate her views. Does she agree with me, though, that the previous government put us in this situation where we are at the moment?
I thank the Honourable Lady for her intervention. It's certainly true that across the Western world at the moment there seems to be some confusion on some very basics of biology and humanity. It is important to protect children too. One data provider listed in clause 28 is the Disclosure and Barring Service. GB News reported there have been 12,000 prosecutions between January 19 and June 2022 by people on the Sexual Offenders Register who did not inform police of data changes. It is crucial that data is accurate and it's up to date. So can the Secretary of State commit to the integrity of biological sex data in the bill and in the government's data sets? I'll give him one example. The UK Health Security Agency released data on sexually transmitted infections last September 24. They released this data by sex and sexual orientation, which is important because of the different epidemiological nature of infections in the different populations. However, the footnotes share that men are defined in this data as cisgender and transgender men, and women as cisgender and transgender women, which somewhat undermines data integrity and the purpose of splitting the data in the first place. Data that is wrong, unhelpful, misleading, or misused by malicious actors can be dangerous in some cases, and many are concerned. So how is he planning to define sex, and what plan does he have for incongruous data? In the debate in the Upper House, it was reported that 3,000 people, have changed their passport data on sex. 15,000 have changed it with the DVLA on their driving licence. And it was described in the House of Lords debate that up to 100,000 people may have incongruous official data sets between items such as passports and driving licences. So how is he intending to resolve this if we're to have one large data set for each person. And then finally, 45.7 talks about fees in respect of disclosure. A person will need to pay fees. Are we going to expect people to pay for their own data? And if so, how much? I know the Labour are very, very keen on increasing taxes, but can the Minister guarantee that the cost will never outweigh the actual admin cost of producing the data?